welcome to GAMEpoch, the show where I play through the history of video games in the order of their release, starting with Super Mario Bros. On the Nintendo. I'm MystikDan, and this is actually a little bit weird. I'm playing Dragon Warrior, but I had done the recording for this final episode. It was actually going to be a couple episodes worth, and unfortunately, I messed up when I tried to save my audio recording, my voice recording, lost the whole thing, and I spent over an hour and a half on it. I think I spent over 2 hours on it. So that was kind of devastating, kicked me in the gut, and it took me a few days to get over that. What I've decided to do is edit the entirety of that recording, the game capture and my other video capture, and hack it down and fit it into one longer finale episode. So, yeah, this is it. This is the finale, and I'm going to go ahead and start this off, and I'm just going to record myself talking over what I had already previously recorded. Just figured it was the best way to make up for it, so here we go. So, starting off with the last time, I had spent a very, very long time, several days of several hours worth of grinding, and you now see I'm at level 19. By the time I continue this, I had learned the last two spells in the game, Heal More and Hurt More, which are silly names for spells that just do heal and hurt, but more. And actually, those are the last spells in the game. And something about the game's experience and levels are, as well, there are only 30 levels that you can gain in this game. So if you were to take the time to go around grinding forever and ever, you would eventually cap out at level 30. You wouldn't learn any more spells either. And it's interesting that it's like that. I actually don't know if the rest of the series stops at 30 and how many other games do. The only game I know that does for certain is Mario RPG, interestingly enough. So now, you can see I'm visiting this town here in the desert. It's the town that's been mentioned previously called Hawk's Nest. It's clearly in rough shape. The walls are falling apart, there's marsh and sand all throughout the place, and really tough enemies that we've never seen before, like the Star Wyvern. And you don't get the chance to see it, but you can fight green dragons as well, just wandering around here. And that's kind of interesting that you would face what was earlier a boss, you will fight as a regular enemy here in just some rundown city. It's kind of nuts. Now, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that they were expecting, the developers of this game were probably expecting you to come to the city, wander around a bit, not see anything, not find any people or treasures, and just see all these horrible monsters kicking the crap out of you, and eventually just leave and go, well, I don't know what to do there. And then keep heading to the east, where the final town is. And earlier, some people in some other towns had mentioned that to the east of this Hawksness town is the town, I don't even know if they refer to it as its name, but it's called Cantlin. And there they have very powerful but very expensive weapons and armor and stuff, so you would eventually head to that direction and find that. Amongst the confusion of the rest of this world, because there's a bunch of other wilderness that's around where you could get to the town, but they're kind of cut off from each other. It's a bit confusing, and you'll actually see me get lost later trying to explore it, but yeah, it's just, it's interesting that they capped it at level 30, but one of the other things that's so interesting about this too, is they changed the way, the rate at which experience required to reach the next level increases. Where for several levels in a row, like from level 15 or 16 on to level 20, it takes 3,000 experience to get to the next level, and it's always 3,000. While before, it would go up, like it would almost double or more to get to the next level from what you had needed before. Like if you'd needed 19 experience to get up a level, the next level would require like 40 or something like that. But they level out how many points you need, which is a lot more like Dungeons & Dragons, the inspiration for this. Where it was always like 100 or 1,000 experience per level. And as I mentioned earlier, oh, and here you go. Here's the boss. If you wander around, or you know where to go, you'll find this one tile in this town, and if you step on it, this guy will appear. But as you can see, I cast Hurt More on him once, and he's dead. It was just a joke. because I was so very powered at this point. And if you search the ground he was on, you get Erdrick's armor, which is the best armor in the game. It automatically equips and just boots out your magic armor, which is a real shame in this game. There's no way to keep hold of that armor so you can sell it if you wanted to sell it. Because that was expensive. That cost you 7,700 gold. And you still have some very expensive equipment you're going to have to buy. But it's just gone. You can't do anything about that. Really a bummer. So here I do a quick speed up showing me exploring the Northern Territory. And I actually took a while of doing that. I skipped all the battles I did. I ended up finding out, nah, this leads to the marsh south of the city. And so I came around and then went a different way, but I still wound up in the marsh that connected around to the northern part and realized, I'm a dummy. So you actually have to go in a slightly separate area and then you'll find the town. So right before walking into the city, there's one spot you have to go through, and here, when you step on it, is a golem. And if you were to fight him normally without doing anything special, he would just wail on you because he has a crazy high attack. And you'll see me doing my little figure twirly thing there. You use the fairy flute that you find in the forest town, and he turns him, puts him to sleep, and then you can kill him without worries of him killing you. But it gives you nothing in experience in gold. So it's kind of a weird thing, but there you go. And now you can come here in this interesting city with bricks everywhere. It was a cool design choice to make this place stand out from the other cities. Make it feel a little more, I don't know. But what's interesting is, first this guy says someone named Wynn has it. But there are also multiple armor and weapon shops in this town, but this is the only one that actually gives you good equipment. But look at how expensive those are. Almost 10,000 for the sword and 15,000 for the silver shield, but look how much gold I got. And that was after dying a few times and losing a ton of gold. I still had almost 50,000. No worries getting those. And now I have the second best sword and the best shield in the game. And the shield is crazy better than the last one. But what's cool about Erdrick's armor as well, and you can see there, flame shield, Erdrick's armor, and this shield. Oh, and here's Nestor. A few people early in the game have been like, where's Nestor? And here he is, just hanging out. And then this guy says, grandfather used to say that his friend Wynn had buried something of great value at the foot of a tree behind his shop, which that, along with an earlier person and another person I'll talk to later, give you a clue as to where to find Erdrick's armor in Hawksnest. So then, I thought that was kind of cool how you can go into like this inner garden here, and then you talk to this guy and says, proof of being an ancestor of Erdrick is something you'll find out by talking to someone in this town. It was an interesting abstraction that they put, but I guess they wanted to have this guy give you the hint on how to find that without it being super obvious unless you really did talk to everybody. But what's cool too is Erdrick's armor, it prevents you from taking damage in the swamp and on these crazy, scary gradient tiles. So that he tells you, find your secret, go to 70 leagues to the south and 40 to the east. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you have done your due diligence and used every new and unique item that you find in the game, including Gwaelin's Love, which you'll see me show here in just a second. It actually, as I find out here, it doesn't work quite right inside towns and dungeons. But she does tell you, you actually communicate with her when you use this item, and she'll tell you how much experience you have to the next level. But then that's it, until you go outside. However, you come over here and talk to this guy, which I had to wait for a second, and he tells you where Wynn had his shop. And those three guys tell you who had the armor, where it is located in respect to the guy's shop, and then where the shop is. But if you use Gwaelin's Love outside, she'll tell you where you currently are in relation to the sound. So then if you do some thinking and wandering around, which I just did, and I cut to this, you'll find the spot. If you use the item, you realize, okay, here I am. And you find where 70 north and 40 east or whatever, and then you search that spot, and there's Erdrick's token, which is what you need. And of course I had to drop something because the inventory is limited in this game. That sounds like what you would need to talk to that guy, that mean old nasty old fart in that cave south of Rimmeldar, in order to fulfill your quest or whatever, but that's supposed to be your irredeemable proof that you are Erdrick's descendant. So I am actually gonna skip ahead in the video here, where I went home. I actually also went to the nearby town and bought a dragon scale, because as I found out, using that will equip it and increase your defense by 2. Oh, and I found out that the fighter's ring actually does nothing. There are people who were mixed on what they thought it did. That they, maybe it makes your strength go up by 2, or your encounter rate go down, or your run rates improve, or whatever, but actually it's a bug in the North American Nintendo version that it doesn't work at all. So it does nothing except change what one guy says in one place. So now you come here with the tablet, and he says the sun and rain combine to form a rainbow. You look in your items, and now the rainbow drop is there, and you've lost the other 2 things, the sun and rain items. And then he just is still a jerk and says, go away. It's like, oh, come on. But anyway, so that sets you up where you're like, okay, I've got the rainbow drop, and then there was a rainbow bridge over here, something, if you remember what I said earlier. So you come to the spot, which I just cut to, you use it, and some cool music, and a bridge is formed. Which I think is just awesome that you can experience that, and that's just kind of like emphasizing this is endgame. And I wanted to show me actually walking through this last section, because this is the final continent that I haven't walked through yet, and there it is. There's Charnel, I believe it's called. Or Chamrook. And right across the water you can see Tantegel, the castle, where you start, and it just kind of shows the emphasis that this is where everything started, and it was right there, and you finally made it here. Now, I'm fast-forwarding through this part because I actually wandered around. If you go through any of the visible staircases, you'll wander through a level or 2 down, but they actually don't go anywhere. They're just dead ends. And I didn't realize that. You can see me playing through this, and I'm losing a lot of health. I'm using a lot of MP to keep my life up, and I'm just like wandering around going, where am I? What's going on? And you're fighting great dragons here. The Axonites, that was the boss in Hawk's Nest. And then I just kind of get lost, and I'm like, what? What am I doing? And I cut to the next episode, and then... Anyway, while I'm wandering around, I'll just say that the Fighter's Ring does nothing in the North American version. It was a bug. And so it's actually useless to have it. It does nothing except change what one guy says, and it's not even useful. So I decided to sell it there to free up an item spot, because that's all it does. It just takes up an item spot for nothing. So I figured I'd free that up. But if you come over here, you'll realize in the middle, it looks kind of like a throne. And you go there and search, and it says the wind billows from behind the throne. And so... well, we should do something about that. And so you go over, do the natural thing, you search, and you create stairs. You find the secret passage. And I believe there was someone in one of the earlier cities somewhere that said, hey, there's a secret entrance behind the throne in the Dragon Lord's thing, so that was that. This is why it's so important to talk to everybody at every stage of the game, in every town, everything, blah, blah, blah. You just always want to talk to everyone. There's no overstating the importance of that. And most RPGs have been set up to do that. One of the interesting things, too, is if you go down, you'll actually find another stair heading up through the middle, and if you take it all the way up, you will find this one teeny tiny little room where the treasure has Erdrick's sword. Best sword in the game. Although, again, I actually wandered around for a little bit before I decided to eject and head to Rimmildar to heal. I stayed the night at the end to get all my health and my MP back, and then I came through and was like, alright, let's go through the castle appropriately. But, so yeah, I now have the best of all the equipment you could have. I have every spell in the game, and I'm level 19, which is, you know, a pretty good level to be at in order to come to this dungeon. And this is one of the last rooms here. I'm finally at the bottom of the dungeon, and then it opens up into this really strange floor that has light. You can see everywhere, and there's water and marsh and desert in the bottom floor of this. And then there's these pink armored knights that are the bane of my existence, alongside red dragons. There were also blue dragons, which are fairly tough, tougher than green, and then red dragons are like the ultimate dragons. And then these stone mans, they're like the gold mans, or the goldmans and the golems, and these things are fairly tough too. So, I mean, every enemy here is just really killing me. And you'll actually see me here later. I wanted to show that I got into this treasure room because it was just tempting, but aside from a little bit of money and an herb or two and a wings, which I really don't need unless I'm out of MP, not much to gain from here. But you'll also notice, if you listen, the music is much lower and slower. Lower in pitch and slower in tempo than it is in other levels. Which is interesting to really make that ominous feeling grow the lower you get. Yeah, these red dragons, even though it looks brown. I don't know, that might just be the palette switch for my RGB mod on my Nintendo, although I have it flipped to the middle, which is supposed to be the accurate color palette. So, I don't know. Anyway, this last floor is intimidating, because you gotta go walk around pretty much the whole thing. But you could see him right at the beginning, you see the blue person. That's the Dragon Lord, and you're like, I want to get to him, this is it, this is the finale. It's just an interesting design decision to make this final floor look the way it does. And as you can see, the encounter rate in this place is just infuriatingly high. And I'm having to spend so much magic just to keep myself alive because I have to use heal more because these guys hit for way more than any single heal spell will do. It's very frustrating. But yeah, so I talked about Fighter's Ring and the Dragon Scale, and I've got all the spells in the game. I have all of the best equipment because I found that one spot that everyone mentioned in Cantlin. I found that one spot in Hawksness and beat the guy there and searched the ground and found his armor, which I keep getting interrupted, but it not only nullifies me from taking damage on swamp tiles and those weird gradient tiles that took 15 health per step, but it also heals like the magic armor does, but I believe it heals for 2 instead of just 1. And that's really nice, but I mean, even as you can see here, because of the high encounter rate, that can sometimes be useless. So here we are, we've gotten here. I decided to use an herb just to get myself full, but I only have like half my MPs, so we're not in great shape there, but we'll see. Welcome, I am the Dragon Lord, King of Kings. I have been waiting long for one such as thee. I give thee now a chance to share this world and to rule half of it if thou wilt now stand beside me. What sayest thou? Will the great warrior stand with me? And what's interesting is if you say yes, he goes ha 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 ha, and then some other text, and the game will actually freeze. And that is your reward for choosing to be evil. But if you say no, then he's like, you are a fool, and you enter into battle with him. Now you'll notice I cast Hurt More on him, and it worked, and I did a ton of damage. I was like, oh, well that's gonna be what works. But I actually use it like 4 or 5 more times, all failing. And as it turns out, the Dragon Lord has an incredibly high agility rate or whatever against Hurt More. Meaning, I have very little chance of hitting with Hurt More. I just got really lucky that first time. And unfortunately, it makes me waste a lot of MP and a lot of time and take a lot of damage before I realize, you know what, I should just attack. But then as soon as I attack, I kill him. That's it, it's over. Except it's not. There's the final form, his true self. And he's an actual dragon, and he looks cool. And I love the effect of him reaching beyond the text boxes. His feet are in the lower box, his wing goes into the item and spell box, and you'll notice he's breathing fire and taking out a chunk of damage. It's in the 40s every time. And so you'll notice that my pattern at this point is basically just attack once, heal once, attack once, heal once, and Hurt More is just as unlikely to hit him in this form as it was the last. So there's just no point in risking it because you might as well attack. Although you'll notice my attacking goes from like 7 or 8 to like 11 or 12, so it's not doing very much. So if he's got a lot of health, it's going to take a long time to kill him. And unfortunately, at this point, I had half my MP. So I could only do this attack, heal, attack, heal, attack, heal pattern for so long before I'm just stuck. And you'll notice, unless this hit connects, I'm dead, and I'm dead. And you can see in my other feat, I'm very frustrated at this point, but, oh, it got worse. Just watch. I went through the whole walking to the dungeon, going through the whole dungeon, and coming to the final boss fight over and over and over and over again. And I still never had luck. I kept dying every time, even if I got there with full MP, which didn't always happen, because sometimes I got to the point where I was just trying to run from every fight in his castle. But sometimes they won't let me run, and sometimes they won't let me run over and over and over again. And I would end up having to heal, because I just had no choice. They were going to kill me, because I couldn't guarantee I was going to run. That's the 3rd time I've died, by the way, we just seen. And you can see me staring just kind of like, oh, how many times are we going to do this? I just wanted to show this to show how many times I failed and how really irritated I was getting. And here we go again. I've used all my magic, and if this one doesn't hit, and it doesn't, it didn't go through. And notice I'm still at level 19, because I didn't want to take the time to level up again, because I had to go up 700 points, or something like that, before I'd level up. And here's another attempt. Yeah, again, every time I had to walk all the way back to the castle, and then all the way down to the bottom, running from every fight, trying not to use any MP so that I could have as much as possible so I could heal. And each time I would also go and buy wings and stuff, and buy a torch so I wouldn't even have to cast Radiant to get through the dark spots. And I mean, this took me way too long. You could see how exhausted I am at this point. Oh, and if you just noticed, I was really pissed off, because I accidentally hit fight instead of moving over to go to my spells to heal. I still had MP left. I could have healed 3 times, but I accidentally hit the button to fight. Look at how incredulous I look. So at this point I decided, you know what, screw it. I can't keep doing this. I've done this like 5 times. I'm gonna go ahead and level up, which I've just done. But if you look, my power's by 5. Max HP by 7, magic by 12. Doesn't seem like huge gains, and then of course I immediately got killed by a red dragon because I just had rough luck. I was like, I don't want to use my... and I just died, so I had to go through all of it again, but... Here we go, I am now facing him with pretty much full MP, more health, I'm level 20, I have more in attack power. So it's like, can I do this? Will we make this work? And this is something that's... just very frustrating to have to take that much time repeating this whole long, enduring process of getting to the ending without any chance of saving or anything. And no items that you can use to restore your MP. That's just frustrating. It means you're just gonna have to take that much time, and every death is punishing enough to force you all the way back to your home base and walk all the way across the world to get back to this point, because there's no warping spells or anything. This was just a real trial in patience. And I mean, even with my additional, defense and attack and MP and HP, I'm still fairly close to having to do attack, heal, although every once in a while he will just do a regular attack instead of breathing fire. And that couldn't have a low hit, where he's only doing 15 sometimes, but then he can also hit for like 40 with just his regular attack. So it's like each time I have to kind of watch and look, and if it's 49 or higher, I feel confident that I can get another hit in and I won't die. Although I think at one point I actually get down to 1 health, which is like, ugh. Because I pushed myself a little too close. But I survive. But I mean, I'm having to heal a lot, and I'm still not getting it, and I'm still having some hits that are like, I'm only doing 8 or 9, and it's like, come on, do some more damage. I'm being pushed right down to the wire. I've only got 2 more chances to heal after this, and unless I'm just hitting... I get enough hits in, and I just happen to be lucky enough, this ain't gonna work. Heal again, I'm now at 12 MP. I don't have very many options left. And then I beat him! Look at how excited I am! And then I did like a mixture of JonTron and Kronk. And thou hast done well defeating the Dragon Lord, and thou hast found the Ball of Light. Radiance streams forth as thy hands touch the object and hold it aloft. Across the land spreads the brilliance, until all shadows are banished and peace is restored. In modern games, or newer games, you would see a cutscene showing all the changes around the world, but in this, a little bit of dialogue is enough. And then it sends you outside, and no enemies. It just wants you to walk back home, and you don't get like the little jarring movement by walking over hills anymore. Such an interesting little touch that they put in there. I've never noticed that before. I've only beaten this like 2 or 3 times, and 1 or 2 of those was when I was a kid and wasn't paying attention to that crap. But I just think that's such an interesting thing that they decided to do, where you're not encumbered at all. Even hills can't stop you from really kind of Leo happy walking it, Leonardo DiCaprio happy walking it back home. And it's interesting they make you do this just to show you that you really have made a difference in the world. There are no more monsters. Everything is at peace again. You have done it. And that is an excellent feeling of victory in and of itself. But I gotta say, after like an hour and a half or so of doing all of that back and forth and over and over and over, having to go through that dungeon and losing to him, and then finally biting the bullet, leveling up just a little bit, and getting to that 20th level, which was apparently just barely enough, with a little bit of luck, to push me over the edge to be able to beat him. And I come back and I talk to these guys in the castle, and they all say, "Come now, King Lorik awaits." That's it, and I ended up saying, forget it, I'm not talking to everyone. And notice the guy behind the counter was gone. He wasn't there anymore. All of these guards, they say the same thing. It's very... whatever. But they're all lined up to process me here. The legends have proven true, the king says. Thou art indeed of the line of Erdrick. It is thy right to rule over this land. Apparently. And I was yawning there because I'd been going for hours and it was late. Wilt thou take my place? Mystic thought carefully before answering. Interesting that they took this out to third person. I cannot, said Mystic, first time your character speaks. If ever I'm to rule a country, it must be a land that I myself find. A little bit awkward, but whatever. Gwaelin said, please wait, I wish to go with thee on thy journey. May I travel as thy companion? And I'm joking over here like, no, I'm a lone wolf. I go trailblaze my own... Yeah, sure, you can come with me. I'm so happy! And then listen to the music and see the sprite change again. And he said, thus ends the tale unless dragons rise again, which was very interesting and ominous, but just a cute little ending where they put the trumpets and the very limited 8-bit music plays. And congratulations, thou hast restored peace unto the world, but there are many roads left yet to travel. May the light shine upon thee. And that's the game. We have completed the first Japanese role-playing game. And arguably the most influential role-playing game of all time. Video game, role-playing game. I mean, Wizardry, Ultima, they have their place, but they weren't nearly as popular as this game was. Especially not in Japan, but even here in America. And especially the inspired by Dragon Warrior, or Dragon Quest Final Fantasy, which was super popular here, you know, relatively speaking. JRPGs didn't really hugely take off in America until Final Fantasy VII. But they had a fairly tight niche. And, you know, games continue to make a huge difference here, like Final Fantasy II, and, you know, some slightly off games like Secret of Mana, and some other, you know, strategy role-playing games like Shining Force, and Phantasy Star, especially Phantasy Star 4, and then, you know, Final Fantasy 3 or 6, and especially Chrono Trigger were really huge hits, and were just, design-wise, they were some of the best games ever made. But it wasn't until FF7 came out that really JRPGs took off huge in America. But, I mean, it started with this humble little game that did a lot poorly, but a lot right. And, I mean, it influenced everything. Everything that came after it when it came to role-playing games. Although a lot of Western role-playing games really still mostly kind of stuck to their, you know, Wizardry Ultima heritage. But, yeah, this was huge. I mean, in Japan, they got to the point where they would still... They would have to have, like, official national holidays, or at least this is the rumor I've heard, when a new Dragon Quest game would come up, because nobody would go to work. They would all take a sick day, conveniently, and then line up around the blocks to, like, Jaws blockbuster release date in the movie theaters type of lines level in Japan. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And there, you know, Yuji Horii, Koichi Sugiyama, and the Slime are still huge names compared to any, you know, what they are here. But, I mean, it's just an enormous influence. And can't be understated, so... Yeah, I know this was a weird format, having two camera things, but this shouldn't happen again. I won't make the same mistake with my audio loss that I did before. I really hope, because that was just devastating. So, again, thank you guys for checking this out. Next game is going to be Mario 2, The Lost Levels, as it's known in America, because it was never released here until like Super Mario All-Stars and stuff like that later. And we ended up getting a different game for Super Mario 2 that eventually got released in Japan as Mario USA. But yeah, I'm going to be playing that. So join me then. And thank you guys for checking this out and for being patient. This series has kind of taken a chunk out of my time and my motivation because it's just so grueling and obnoxious with how much patience it requires to play through it. So thanks for checking this out, and I will see you guys in the next one. This is MystikDan signing out. Bye.